Good morning, everyone. It is Chris here with Zone Zero California, and right now I am near the intersection of, well, it's a funny intersection. It's where Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood Boulevard, and Virgil all kind of triangulate. And the reason why I'm in this neighborhood, this is essentially at the skirts of what's known as Silverlake. And the Silverlake neighborhood of Los Angeles is definitely in a very high fire hazard severity zone. And of course, we're continuing our series of videos here, visiting these very high fire hazard severity zones in Los Angeles and Ventura County and eventually other parts of California, to show people, to take you, the viewers, on the ground here to see exactly where these high fire hazard zones begin and end. So we're gonna take a drive around like we've been doing, but essentially Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard, from where I am, run basically due west. They kind of turn and go a little southwest, but they basically run from east to west. But here, where they converge, it's in the Silverlake, at the edge of Silverlake, they start to hook and come around and go down more south. And so, essentially, Hollywood Boulevard then becomes your line of demarcation. Basically, if you live east, northeast, along Hollywood Boulevard in the hills of Silverlake, you are in a very high fire hazard severity zone. So again, what I'm doing here is I'm taking you, the viewers, on the ground to show you where these zones are, because a lot of times when we hear the word wildland urban interface, we might think like, oh, that's like the very edge of town, and in some cases it is, but not here in Los Angeles, where the development and urbanization has been taking place for, a century. So, of course, we're doing this to raise awareness about Zone Zero, the Zone Zero regulations. Today is March 1st. We are expecting them to be finalized and published sometime this month. I think what we're going to see here is a state-level hierarchy where there's some general broad guidelines, and then counties and cities might have more specific guidelines, rules, and regulations they put forth, frankly, to accommodate the specific needs of those communities. For example, in LA or San Diego, or in Berkeley, California, right? The homes are probably built a lot closer together than, more rural counties. And likewise, when it comes to dealing with the trees, right? That's been a major issue where essentially Zone Zero is more or less demanding that any tree within a 0 to 5 foot radius of a home would probably need to be removed, because again, what we found here, or what scientists have found, is that the way these fires spread, it's not mainly by walls of fire or radiant heat even, but it's by the ember storms, right? The embers lift up into the air and travel sometimes for miles, and then they land on other properties. And when they land on other properties that aren't, hardened, fire hardened, they can combust very easily and start new fires in other locations, right? So what does that look like? That looks like, for example, having old dead leaves from a nearby tree accumulating on your roof and not cleaning that off regularly. So now you have a pile of dry combustible material on your roof, and ember lands on the roof. It starts a fire. It grows rapidly, especially during these Santa Ana winds or other high wind events, right? Because that really fuels the fire to the point where it starts and spreads and grows to a point where it becomes untenable before a fire department can get there, maybe even before you realize your house is on fire. And so that also applies for other things being stored in and around the property, right? No firewood, no gasoline cans and things like that. Those seem obvious, but other things that they found is things like patio furniture, right? Your patio furniture could also be something that ignites very easily, and you might not even be aware of it. And so the idea is to really harden the structures themselves and the 5 feet immediately around them. So what that's going to look like in implementation, like I mentioned landscaping, it might require people to switch over grass for gravel. A lot of people aren't happy about that, especially with the trees. Getting back to the topic of the trees, those trees provide shade. That shade reduces electricity costs to cool the home. I think I read one study where it can be as effective as lowering the temperature. The shade from the trees can lower the temperatures by 50 degrees. or effectively it feels like 50 degrees. So I mean, that's a major point of contention, especially in Southern California, right, where we're seeing a heat trend, you could say. So what else does it include? It includes old wood fences and gates, specifically redwood or cedar fences and gates. Those act like fuses that will ignite and bring the fire directly to your home or structure, right? Because most of the time you have a gate or a fence right next to the house or maybe next to the garage, right? And so that's how wood fences can act as fuses. Now, when it comes to the building materials to replace things with, there are certain hardwoods that have been approved by CAL FIRE. Kayu Batu is one of those hardwoods that I know for sure has been approved by CAL FIRE. So it's not about going all metal or all composite with things like Trex or TimberTech. There are some wood options available, so you just got to become aware of which ones. This way, if you want to use wood, you're going to be compliant, right? And so that also obviously would include decking, right? Balcony railings. I drove by a apartment in Hollywood in the very high fire hazard severity zone there, and we saw all of their balcony railings were made of wood. Those are going to need to be replaced. And then of course I mentioned roofing, and then there's also siding. Now, if you live in a community, and we've driven through many of those, Agora Hills, Thousand Oaks, for example, the houses were constructed during a time where the certain designs and the materials being used, you know, they have wood siding. So if you live in a house with wood siding, you may need to consider, or actually you may be compelled to replace that in the upcoming years. So what's the timeline for this stuff? Well, all new builds, as effectively right now, so if you're building a new home or new structure, you have to be Zone 0 compliant, meaning all of your building materials need to be Class A non-combustible. Now, if you live in an existing home, as millions of people here do, right, in Silverlake, in Los Feliz, in the Hollywood Hills, Bel Air, you name it, right? All of the various different fire hazard severity zones we've traveled to so far. You have 2 to 3 years to essentially become compliant, if by chance your insurance hasn't already essentially demanded you become compliant already. And we've heard many stories about people failing to get their homeowners insurance renewed, or people are purchasing a home and then they can't get insurance for their home they've just purchased because of these issues. So we've seen already the insurance companies essentially being de facto enforcement mechanisms for these Zone 0 guidelines. So that's it, guys. So I've got a couple resources for you. First of all, I'd really like for you to visit our school community and join us there. I'm compiling a bunch of resources and everything in one spot there. So there's links to grants, for example. If you would like to find out, if you would like to find financial assistance and to give you some help with the burden of becoming Zone 0 compliant here, especially if you have a larger undertaking like your siding, right? I've also started a Reddit community. If you'd like to join the conversation there, please come and join us, or even leave your comments here. If you yourself have experienced any kind of headaches or trouble or issues concerning these Zone 0 regulations and dealing with your insurance or local government, share your story, get it off your chest. I don't mind, and people will be able to find your stories valuable, I guarantee that. So we've got our school community, we've got our Reddit, and of course, if you want to be put in touch with a local contractor in your area, visit us at Zone 0. Visit us at zone0california.com for more information. You can give us a call or fill out the form on our website, and we'll put you in touch with qualified licensed contractors. All right, so let's take a drive around and sort of point out and show you guys where this very high fire hazard severity zone sort of begins. And then we'll take a little bit of a drive into the neighborhoods and start pointing out all of the different homes and things that are going to be affected by these regulations, just to give you guys a sense or an idea or a feeling of just how many people this is going to affect and the kinds of things it's going to affect. So maybe you, when you take a walk around your home or property, you can start identifying these things, all right? So let's take a drive. All right, folks, we're in the truck. Got my seatbelt on. If you see my previous videos, you know that's been a problem. But okay, so let me take you here now into Silverlake. and point out exactly kind of how this goes. So as you can see here, I'm on Sunset, and then it's gonna bend around here and connect to Hollywood Boulevard here. This is Hollywood Boulevard. Hey, just a quick edit. I meant to say it's Sunset Boulevard, not Hollywood Boulevard, that runs down through Silverlake, southeast. So let me just make that correction now. And this is the Silverlake area. So this immediate part right here is just a medium or high risk. This is like at the very edge of the high fire hazard severity zone. But as we travel down this road here, we're gonna come across this, once we get to Sanborn. Okay, we're coming up on Fountain, so I know these are familiar names if you live in the area, so that's why I'm kind of pointing it out. So now that we're in Fountain, now immediately all of this becomes in the middle of a fire hazard severity zone. So we are smack dab now in the red. All right, so when we get to Sanborn, I'm gonna take a left into the neighborhood, and we'll just kind of drive around a bit and point out where zone 0 issues are presented for like the average home or property in this area. Okay, so now I'm at Sanborn. All right, so welcome to Silverlake, Sunset Junction. All right, this is all very high fire hazard severity zone to the left and to the right. And you know, as you can guess, it's because these houses are on hills, and that's something that's going to be pretty obvious once you start looking at the map, the CAL FIRE map, which is what this is all based on. Is that essentially it's the houses on hills. It's once you get down into the valley, for example, pretty much it's all clear, right? Or if you get to flatter parts of LA, it's all clear. But here, look at this. We just made a left on Sanborn, and immediately these first houses, let's see what's going on. All right, so let me roll down the windows. So you have a wood fence there. You have a bunch, oh, right here, look at this. This is a major candidate. Not only do you have a wood fence, old wood fence and gate here, but that's a craftsman style home. And I guarantee the wood is siding, the siding is wood. Same thing, there's an older, you get a lot of craftsman style homes in this neighborhood. There's a wood fence right there. Okay, and of course all of the landscaping, right? Like look at all of this landscaping, right? Trees, bushes, other kinds of plants. Oh, this is all wood right here, all wood fence, right? So in a neighborhood like this, especially given the craftsmen's, you know, that's gonna be a huge point of contention. Here you go, another wood fence and gate. Craftsman courthouse style home. All right, let's see across the street here. Here's another wood fence. All right, look at all of that landscaping. Okay, all of that landscaping, and then of course the palm trees. Right, another craftsman here. Oh, that one might be modernized. Here you go, more wood right here. Even more wood. Now it's got a steel frame, but that wood is probably redwood. Same thing right here, craftsman style home. You see, that was just one block, right? Here's more. All wood fences, gates. That siding might be wood as well. Wood fence. I mean, I didn't have, that's one block on Sanborn. So, you know, now I'm kind of getting more into the valley part of Silverlake here. You know, there's a Silverlake reservoir. It's kind of, you know, that's like part of the deal here, but I don't want to go too far that direction. I'm just gonna turn back towards Hollywood Boulevard, but here you go. Another wood fence and gate. There's a remodel. Look at this, you got old wood garage, detached garage. All right. Now these houses have wrought iron style. That's steel. So that's fine, right? But how about that house? Is that wood siding? Look at this, wood garage doors. Look at this, got a wood fence and a patio with a deck, and it's a craftsman style home. And that's just one block. That is just one block in the middle of Silverlake's very high fire hazard severity zone. So you can see just how many homes this is going to affect. Look at this on the corner. That's all wood. All wood. Right? All wood. All wood. More over here. Wood patio. Wood patio up there too. Wood. Look at all this landscaping with a wood fence behind it. Giant trees, right? So as you can see, it's quite an undertaking. It's going to affect so many homes and people. So, you know, we want people to be prepared, not scared. And of course, this is all in an effort to, you know, ensure that the next time a major wildfire happens, that it doesn't, you know, take entire towns off the map. And it's the reality of Los Angeles here. It's the law of the land as well. And so we're just trying to raise awareness, guys. Okay, so thanks. My name's Chris. Go to zonezerocalifornia.com. Reach out to us there. We'll put you in touch with contractors, licensed contractors in your local area. Thanks.